Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lydia and I discuss Christianity and narcissism. I appreciate those of you who come by to watch. I am not taking the time to really do this the right way. If I took the time to figure that out, I would never do anything. And I'm hoping that this might be helpful to someone out there and maybe possibly helpful to me as I try to figure stuff out through this. I think I want to sort of just share a few experiences from childhood and just a mishmash of thoughts that go along with it. I remember being quite young, maybe 5 or 6, I think, and being outside in the yard with my sister, and we each had gotten some special treat from a Bible club. I think it was a Nutty Buddy treat, and she said to me, we were going to do a race and see which one could finish the snack the fastest and see which one of us could win. So she said, you know, sit down with your back to mine, I think, and eat as fast as you can. And so I sat down and I ate as fast as I could, wanting to win. And then I had her turn around or something. I told her I had finished, and she turned around and she hadn't touched hers at all, and she had just a very strange smile on her face, and she let me know that she was going to be able to really savor hers and really enjoy it and take her time with it. And that's kind of a weird story, but kind of a picture of my whole relationship with her. I think in a nutshell that there was constantly some game being played, and the rules were always going to be changed, or she had information that I didn't, and I was ultimately going to lose over and over. The arguments, I don't think I remember them starting until somewhere between the age of 9 and 10. She definitely had a lot of control in other ways, and I knew that I had to do what she said. There was, I think, already that understanding way before then. I do have a memory of maybe being 9 and sometimes being outside playing and coming inside maybe to use the restroom or grab some water, and seeing her just sitting on the couch doing nothing. And she would say to me, Lydia, are you mad at me? Is there anything I've done? And I would say no, and she would press it and ask again and again and again and again and again and again. And then the second I had the slightest bit of exasperation in my voice, she would kind of jump on it and pounce on it and say, see, I knew you were mad about something, so now we have to talk about this. So that is one of my memories. I remember her starting some kind of argument with me in the living room, and when she would start to confront me about something, she would say, sometimes you say this or sometimes you do this, and I would say, well, you say the same thing, and she'd say, oh no, I haven't. There has never been a time I've done that. And she would ask me, can you tell me a specific time that I've said that? Can you tell me something specific? And I wouldn't have enough details, so she would say, if you don't remember, then it didn't happen. And so this would happen over and over, and then one time I finally had details, and I told her the details. I said, I know that you've said this. And like the second I told her, like her jaw dropped, and she like let out this big gasp, and she told me that was a sign of really like horrible bitterness in my heart, that I actually could remember something like that, and what did that say about me, and let's talk about it. And so I had this like really big bunny trail argument that I had to have with her. And then like I think maybe we would get back to the main argument and continue, but like I learned that no matter what, I really couldn't. I really could. It was always a big problem. Sometimes I would basically be pushed into a corner, like she would basically be forcing me to say something about her, and that would cause problems. I do believe that she actually needed the tension. She needed this tense back and forth, and that was something that sometimes she was enjoying. Sometimes she maybe wasn't enjoying it and she was honestly mad, but I think sometimes she actually needed that tension. And that's been a more recent realization. It seems to track with a lot of my experiences. I do remember just being confused a lot and really about like what it was that she wanted and what I needed to do. I remember being 8 and she had been we were homeschooled a lot, but she was attending a school for this year to give my parents a break, and that's kind of a secret, but I'm telling you. So she was attending a Christian school, and then she was in 5th grade, and then she had a Valentine's party, and she had received a lot of candy, and she had told me that this chocolate lollipop was for me. But I couldn't remember exactly what she told me, and I felt like I better not actually eat it because I need to confirm that this is really for me. She had said something to me, but the anxiety is really, really high, and I dared not touch it. I thought, I'm going to wait for her to come back from school so I know for sure that this is mine. And I remember her coming in the door and seeing it on the counter, and her telling me, like, you were supposed to have eaten this today. Basically, since you didn't eat it, I'm going to punish you by eating it now. And again, I haven't really planned a video. I haven't really thought through everything that I wanted to say here or really have a good point. I'm just telling you that there was a lot, and it started very early. My mom could be pretty cold and unsympathetic about a lot of things. She did tell me in my adulthood that she had always worried that we were going to turn out spoiled. She really didn't want us to turn out spoiled. And so I think that was part of the motivation for her hesitancy to give sympathy in certain situations. I think she also believed that if there was some sort of argument, it was definitely both of us. And I remember her saying at least once, you know, it would only take one of you to humble yourselves to not have this problem. That's all it would take. I remember her once disciplining us the second that she saw something. My sister kind of got in my face when we came to the dinner table and started something with me, and she sent us into the other room. I don't know how long this lasted, but I think when I was 7, she would my dad would be away at work. I don't think that this would happen if he was there, but he was maybe working a second shift or a third shift, probably second shift at the time. So my mom would call us to dinner, and she would always make sure she was sitting next to me, and then when we would start eating, she would hold her face like right up against mine, like a centimeter away, and she would she was trying to mock my chewing and the way I ate. She was sensitive to sounds that people made. I don't think that her eating was necessarily any better, but it's not something that the rest of us would have thought that much about. But she would be like, like right in my face, and I couldn't say anything, and my mom would look unhappy, but she would be staring off in the distance, just trying to ignore it. I can't tell you how long this lasted, but it was something that I just had to endure, along with everything else that was placed on me. And then one day my mom said that she believed that children were not supposed to be heard. And so anytime we wanted to ask for something, like if we needed like the dish passed to us to serve ourselves food, to raise our finger at table, and otherwise the dinner time should be completely silent. So that might have been what actually stopped it. I've thought about that recently, and I don't know if that was part of why she said that. So at that point we stopped discussing or having any kind of conversation at dinner, and we would just raise our fingers if we needed anything or needed to be excused or anything like that. Something else I wanted to say is that you can't always get a lot of help from just anyone. Sometimes we can go to one person and we want someone to have something to tell us to help make it better. And that's something that I kind of have learned over time, is that I can't count on somebody else, maybe even somebody who's well-meaning or wanting to be helpful. I remember being in my 20s and trying to say something to someone, and she herself was an older sister who really loved her younger sister and had really tried to help her younger sister in different ways. And so I think she took that a little personally when I was trying to explain to her that I was in a difficult situation. And so she corrected me, and I kind of went away thinking like I have to like take this advice to heart. And I also wanted to say that a lot of times even people can use scripture, and they can want to be helpful from scripture, and they can be very, very well meaning, but they might not really understand the situation. So even using scripture, even someone using scripture doesn't mean the person necessarily has exactly the answer for you. And we have to partly depend on our experiences for our wisdom and see how those line up with scripture. If somebody went through life thinking like every time he prayed he got whatever he asked for, and he would think that and maybe he might have a verse that seems to support that, and so he would go through life thinking that should be the case for everyone. But our experiences will tell, like we might have a misunderstanding of scripture, and we realize that our understanding of scripture is the problem when our experiences are not lining up with what we thought to be correct. There's an organization called GRACE. It stands for Godly Response to Abuse in a Christian Environment. And I've looked over a report that they had put out. It was really for sexual abuse, but I feel like it really also helped me to see scriptures that were appropriate for uses in certain situations. And I would encourage you maybe to look up that organization and look up some of their reports and what they say about using scriptures to help people in seriously abusive environments. I don't think that I have a whole lot else to offer right now. This is just kind of random, and I just wanted to share a few things in case it's helpful to anyone. But a lot of people out there are hurting, and they do have a lot of trauma from their families that they aren't really free to talk to just anyone about. And I want awareness, and I want to put a face to somebody who has had a very difficult situation with a sibling, who is still trying to work through it, who is still holding on to faith and still holding on to God, but also realizing that I don't have to be the one to find the silver lining in my difficult story. God is the one who does that, and it's okay to just sit with grief and to say this was wrong, and to recognize that, so that hopefully I can be actively working harder to be the Christian I'm supposed to be, and to be the parent that I'm supposed to be, and just kind of on guard for problems that can happen with our own children. So that's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Just hope that you all are doing well on your healing journey, and just keep praying, and keep your faith. As I like to say, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up now, but thank you again.